I don't want anyone to get confused. I saw it was distinguished lecture series, so I'm not that distinguished to start off with. So, obviously, I sat in your seat. And I was a good student, and you know, pretty decent. But I never thought you never have any idea where you're going to land. I mean, you have. It's really an open slate. So, and I was taking notes through some of the talks you guys had about being in the profession and the salaries and the hours. And trust us, we're aware of it. And Randy, Vince, we're aware of it. And I hate to say, sometimes you're dictated by the AD. The AD sometimes is going to be the one you're going to have to fight and try to make it work. But there are some ways around it, and then, you know, we've looked at some different options on how to make a better environment for an athletic trainer. Because really, it's all about your environment. It's not about, you know, everyone talks about facilities and talk about all the brick and mortar, but it's really about the, you know, the people that you're working with or your mentors. It always comes back to that. And that's what we always remember as a student here. And like you said, I think Dr. Lively mentioned, you really don't know how good you have it. You really don't. I mean, you can sit here, they can tell you how good it is. And you know, West Virginia is the brand of athletic training. It has been for a long time. We modeled our program after West Virginia. We used, you know, the basic matrix on how they developed their program. And when John Spiker, you know, created the, you know, the curriculum, it all stems from that, you know, that piece. And that's really been, it's very sustaining. And I think that's the other thing that you guys have to understand. If something can sustain, you know, as far as a staff, you know, Randy's been here a long time. My staff at LSU, we rarely have turnover. Andy Barker, who's with me, listen to this stat. He was with me at Florida State. We were there in 1988. He's going to go in semi-retirement this year. He's with me at LSU. He worked football with me. He's been my roommate on the road since 1988. So, I mean, that's a little bit, you know, over the top to have someone there that long. But my point is, we have a West Virginia graduate that I came in. I've been at LSU for 20 years. He's still with us. So there has to be something said about what we just mentioned. You know, the salaries are low, the, you know, the work environment's long. But I think, again, it all comes down to who you're working with and who you bring into your program. And that's what I want to touch on is what do we look for, you know, a young athletic trainer. So obviously we get a resume. So what do you think is the most important part on that resume?
Front page.
Front page. What do you think is the most important part on that resume?
Your references to go reach out to them.
It's all about the references. We look right to the reference. You know, everyone has all this nice stuff on the front page. And everybody has the nice paper. They got all the nice paper. They got all the nice, you know, you paid a little more for that extra. You got it maybe at Kinko's or wherever. But we go to the back page. Because if Randy Metter, Vince is on there, that's who we're calling. It really doesn't matter. We were talking right before this. You've had some GAs work in high school sports where I think Randy, you said you had 3, 4, 5 in the NFL. So right there that tells you that someone in that NFL club knew about a West Virginia student so they could call it. So don't get caught up in your experiences as an undergrad or even in graduate school, because it's really the type of work you do. So you're going to look at the whole body of work is basically what it comes down to. So as far as any pieces that you see in you know, professional development, again, it's about the relationships. It is going to be about, and really at the end of the day, that's what we have. You can win championships, you can win, you know, be a part of teams that have done great things. Now, I'm not trying to say that's not a fun part about it. I've been very fortunate. You know, at Florida State, we won a national championship, and at LSU we won 2. And it is. It's but at the end of the day, it's the people that you took that journey with is where you're going to stay and keep in the back of your mind. So I think, to address some of the questions that we were talking about in low salaries. So we had an AD that we presented this information to, say, look, we want to be the best. We want to be the best in athletic training also, because they always talk about, oh, we want to be the best in football. We want to be the best in gymnastics. We want to be the best in volleyball. So we did a presentation. So they were allowed us to, you do the surveys, you send them out to different universities. So that was one of the things that we tried to improve on. So I think, from a salary standpoint, I think we're pretty good. I think we're from an SEC standpoint, we're probably one of the better schools in that. Now, we talk about family life. Family life is going to be your most important. So, what do you do with that? Well, anybody in a family situation wants to see their kids play. Anybody wants to see, see their parents. We always try to make time that they can do that. We try to, encompass that. We try to make contingencies that allow other people to cover those areas. I have a female athletic trainer, because the female athletic trainer, believe it or not, is, as you see, in the population, becoming more and more dominant. We have always, from a female athletic training standpoint, we were always sensitive to that point, and then we are very proactive. I have a female with me working football for the last 19 years. 19 years. And that's unheard of back then, especially in the SEC. So, but I think that dynamic changes everything in the training room, because I think the female sees some things different. So we are very pro in getting more of the females involved in football. And we have from a graduate program, we probably have about 6 in Division I very good programs, such as Notre Dame, Florida State, Kentucky. And I really believe that it's going to keep growing. Here's the other piece. The NFL now has a, I don't want to call it a mandate, but they have to almost bring in more females in the organization. So this year we've probably placed 3 or 4 females in training camp, which there was probably only maybe 3 to 4 teams that would allow that to happen. So, but what can you do? You have to have a vision also. You should know what you're getting into. Okay, you want to work the NFL, well, you're going to have to work some of those hours, and it's maybe a little bit more, you don't have as much freedom, say, as a university or a high school setting. So, for example, for Shelley, she has a family. She started having children. She does her work, we let her go at 5 o'clock, which is unheard of, which is very unheard of. But you know what? I don't want to lose her. She's very valuable. So I don't think you can always put a time clock on somebody because they're doing hours makes you a better athletic trainer. That doesn't work. In the summer, what we do, I shift everybody. Everybody does like a 4-hour shift. After the 4 hours, then go home. They can stay. They can do what they want. So we have the whole staff does all the shifting. So now you have a lot more time. You're not going to get there's the burnout. You address a lot of the burnout issue. The hiring, also we look at in hiring, is been a basic format. The questions that we're going to ask, are they a good person? When I say a good person, I'm talking about you'll help each other, you understand the importance of being together and basically there to assist one another if there's issues, if there's, basically being a kind person. I like personality. I like people that can talk, because I think athletic training, if you can communicate, and if you can communicate, you can overcome a lot of the deficiencies that I had that, as maybe from, there's things that can be intimidating that I know that I was when I was in this seat thinking about how am I going to deal with all this insurance if I get, how do I manage all these rehabs. I mean, some things can be a little overwhelming. You may not want to admit it, but they are. So you have to communicate to coaches and athletes